Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Crane. I'm the Academic Program Specialist for OSU Online, and today we are talking to Ciara Speight. She is from the LASSO Center, and she's going to talk to us today about how online students can access the LASSO Center. So hi Ciara.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So before we start, could you tell us a little bit about what you do at OSU and exactly what is the LASSO Center?
Yeah, so my name is Ciara Speight. I am the Tutoring Coordinator for the LASSO Center. So the LASSO Center is one of the largest academic resource centers on campus. We offer one-on-one tutoring by appointment, and then we also offer supplemental instruction, which is more of a group-based collaborative learning environment. And so Erica Fleming is our coordinator over the SI program.
So, you know our students are online and they complete their degrees 100% online. Some of them don't live in the, even in the US or in Oklahoma or in Stillwater. So what kind of services does the LASSO Center offer to 100% online students?
Yeah, so all of our services have in-person and virtual options. So a student that is OSU online, if they wanted to utilize tutoring, would just schedule a virtual appointment rather than an in-person appointment, and so they'd receive a Zoom link that they would be able to access at the time of that appointment to join the session. And then with supplemental instruction, they have in-person sessions, but they also have a Zoom session each week. And so students that wanted to take part in an SI session would just click the Zoom link at the time of that session, and then they'd be able to join that way.
Okay, so it's very accessible to online students.
Yes, definitely.
That's great. So could you walk us through, I mean, you talked a little bit about it, but if a student wants to make an appointment with the LASSO Center, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, so a student can make an appointment from the LASSO Center by the easiest way I would say is just going to our website, lasso.okstate.edu. And so if you click on tutoring and then make an appointment, it'll kind of pull up this calendar view, and so you'll navigate to whichever course you need tutoring for, find a day and time that works for you. And so appointments that are in person will list 021 Classroom Building. Appointments that are there virtually will say virtual in the title. If a student needs a time that isn't in person but they need virtual, I always recommend go ahead, schedule the appointment, and there's always a form that pulls up where you'll list what you want to work on during that tutoring session. And if you just leave the tutor a note, hey, I need a virtual appointment, they'll make sure that they email you that Zoom link so that you can join the session virtually.
Oh, great.
And then with SI, students are automatically enrolled in the SI Canvas page for a course if it's supported by SI. So it's just a matter of going to your dashboard and favoriting that course so that it shows up. And so it'll be titled SI-whatever that course is. And so it'll pull up a page that lists the session times and the locations. And then for the virtual session, it'll have the Zoom link listed right there for the student to access.
Okay, so for SI, students don't have to enroll in anything. It's automatic for them?
Yes, that is correct.
Oh, okay, cool. And so students will be meeting with a tutor online. What can you tell me more about the tutors who work at the LASSO Center?
Yeah, definitely. So all of our tutors have taken the course, received an A grade, and they also have to have a letter of recommendation from a faculty member before hire. And then once they are hired on, our onboarding process, all of our tutors are required to go through tutor training, which is certified through the College Reading and Learning Association. And so that's just our way of ensuring that they have the tools and the resources they need to provide quality academic support. And then in the same vein for our SI leaders, they have an A in the course, and our SI leaders actually sit in on the class during the semester. So when they're leading sessions, they are doing sessions that are relevant to what's being covered in the course right now and currently. And then the training model for them is also an internationally certified model that we use.
Are there any specific challenges or barriers that have come up with working with online students that the LASSO Center has had to address?
Yeah, definitely. So with tutoring, the biggest one is that our tutors set their own availability during LASSO operating hours. And so the perk of that is LASSO has evening availability, weekend availability, but when the tutor sets their schedule, they have to choose either in-person or virtual. There isn't the option, we don't currently have the capabilities for them to post that availability and the student choose in person or virtual. And so sometimes I'll get emails from students that are like, hey, the only time that works for my schedule is an in-person appointment. And so I think making sure that we are letting students know you can schedule an in-person appointment and just leave that tutor a note so that we can make sure that students that need those appointments are able to get them. With supplemental instruction, because it's very group-based collaborative, our SI leaders are leading activities, and it's designed to be engaging with other students in the learning process. And because of that, whenever you move that to Zoom, sometimes you have students that don't have their cameras on, or their mic may be turned off because they're joining that session in a coffee shop and they don't want to talk in the coffee shop. And so sometimes when it comes to, okay, how do we find other ways to get students engaged? Because the purpose of SI, in order for that SI model to stay true to the SI model, it requires the group working together. And so it's, okay, can we bring in polls? Can we use the chat function? What ways can we make sure that we are getting students engaged? Because it's never designed it should never feel like a lecture, you know? It should be all of us working together on the course content. It should be something that's fun and engaging. And so I think that's probably the biggest challenge. And so there are ways that they have to get creative in getting those students engaged in that environment.
I really like that because, like you said, it's not a lecture. You know, they've already had the lecture.
Yeah.
And now is the time for them to collaborate, work together, and kind of, you know, better understand the material.
Yeah.
So that's a really great tip for any student, but especially online students, that in order to make the most of this, you know, it's important to engage, important to be present. And
yeah, definitely.
what do you think, Sarah, are some of the benefits to using the LASSO Center as a student?
I think the biggest one is accessibility. I know sometimes you get students that are non-traditional students, students that have families, students that are working full-time jobs, and so in addition to classes, and so sometimes they're like, hey, I can't make it to my professor's office hours, can't make it to my TA office hours. And so with LASSO, we do have evening availability, we do have weekend availability. So the first thing I would say is accessibility. Also, you're working with someone that is a peer leader, and so this is someone that understands where you're coming from. They've been in your shoes, still in your shoes in other capacities because they're still taking classes. And so a lot of times you're sitting with someone that's like, hey, these are some things that helped me when I was in that class. And so you can get some of those tips in how to navigate or how to study for a class. The other benefit is that I will say it's a very safe place to make mistakes. And I think we learn by making mistakes. But when there's the fear of making mistakes, that can hold us back. And so when you're working with a peer, it's one of those things where it's no pressure. You can make a mistake and not be judged for it. And so you can ask a question and there's no question that's going to be considered silly. And so it creates an environment where you can say, okay, I can put my learning, I can make my learning a priority, and I can know that I can bring my questions, I can bring my concerns, and this person is going to work with me and we're going to figure it out together.
Ciara, if you had a student who was hesitant to make an appointment or hesitant to visit the LASSO Center online, what would you tell them?
So I think that when you look at academic support services, unfortunately, I think sometimes there can be shame surrounded in asking for help. And so the biggest thing that I would say is that asking for help is something that you're gonna do the rest of your life. You know, it's something that is going to help you succeed and it's going to help you thrive. And the other thing that I like to say is give it a try. And if you don't like it, well, now you know. Because we offer two different services. So sometimes you have someone that may come to tutoring and they're like, 1 hour sitting with one person, I had trouble concentrating. And I'm like, okay, maybe you should try SI, where it's a group and there are activities to stay engaged. I know I have a front desk ambassador. that was wanting help with chemistry. And she's like, well, the problem is, for me, she's like, tutors come in, I'm friends with all of them, and they're trying to stay on topic. I'm asking them about their life. And I was like, okay, why don't you try SI? Where it's a group environment, you're all working on something, it would be a lot harder to do that in that environment. And she started joining SI sessions, loved it. Then sometimes you have a student and they're like, SI session was covering this content, but I have specific questions. And I'm like, okay, well, hop into a one-on-one tutoring session. That way you can work on the stuff that you're needing help with, and then jump back into the next SI session. So it's one of those things where you can find what's the best fit for you. So I always recommend students trying both, because a lot of times you'll have some that like both, but a lot of times you'll have some that may lean one way or the other. But it's a service that is no additional charge. So it's also one of those things where if you don't like it, you aren't there's no cash that you're out of. There's a lot of students that learn study tips. And the other thing is that tutoring is not just for when you're struggling. There are a lot of 4.0 students that use it to make sure they're solidifying the knowledge. An SI session, 1 hour of SI is equivalent to 2 hours of independent study. And so it's one of those things where it's like, it's also a time saver, because you don't have to spend all the time racking your brain trying to understand something that you're not getting. You can ask a question and have someone explain it in a different way. And so I think that's the other benefit that I would point out in using LASSO services.
Yeah, it's very, like you were saying, accessible for kind of any kind of student. You know, you don't have to, I think there's a big misconception that there's only one right way to be a student.
Yeah.
And there's not. There's lots of options for every type of personality, every type of background, every type of situation.
Yeah, definitely.
That's great.
Definitely.
So something at OSU that this kind of goes along with that, you know, at OSU we strive to live the cowboy code. This is something that is a, you know, set of values that we follow. So is there any part of the cowboy code that you feel like does a good job of representing the mission of the LASSO Center?
Yes, we end the day knowing that we gave it everything we had. And I think that sometimes when it comes to ending the day knowing you gave it everything you had, sometimes that requires asking for help. And I think that is the beautiful part of the cowboy spirit, is the way that we do support each other. And when it comes to our tutors and our SI leaders, they are always wanting to support and to see students succeed. And so with that comes with finding different ways to explain something, you know. I think that it's easy to know the way that you learn and what works for you, but when you're working with a student, it's not about the way that you learn, it's about how do they learn and what ways can I adapt this session to help them understand this course material. And so that's something that I know we're always intentional about with our training. That's something that they're always intentional about when they're actually in their sessions, is using every avenue possible to help it click.
I think that's makes perfect sense with the cowboy code. Thank you. So something that's similar is we have something at OSU called the Land Grant Mission, where we strive to be the nation's preeminent land grant university.
Yeah.
So how do you think the LASSO Center contributes to that mission of land grant?
The first thing I would say is access to education, because when you have people coming into college for the first time, not everyone had the same educational background, you know. If you were at a rural school, you may not have been able to take calculus, physics, and so you have students coming in with varying academic backgrounds, and so being able to provide academic support so that all of those students, regardless of their previous academic background, are able to come in and succeed. Sometimes you have students that are non-traditional students that are brilliant, but it's been a minute since they've been in the classroom. And so maybe there are some study tips that could help them be successful. And I think that that is our ultimate goal, for them to come here, for them to gain knowledge, and for them to go out and be able to contribute to society in a positive way. And so that, I feel like this is the way that LASSO supports that mission. Also with retention and graduation rates, you know, being able to support students in being successful in their coursework, so that they know, hey, I can do this and I can make it all the way to that graduation finish line.
I love that, the graduation finish line, that LASSO is a key part of that. Thank you. So last question, Ciara. What is the best part for you about being a member of the Cowboy family?
For me, I would hands down say the sense of community, the lifelong connections that you make in your time here. Just this past fall, I had a previous tutor that's, graduated, not even in the state anymore, reach out and say, hey, I'm going to be here for homecoming, is there a time that I can meet you, for coffee, you can meet my boyfriend, catch up. And so I think the way that these relationships are formed and the way that they carry beyond this campus.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thank you, Ciara, for sharing about the LASSO Center. We really appreciate you, sharing with online students how they can participate in this great program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So thank you for watching. Remember to follow us at OSU Online and visit osuonline.okstate.edu. Thank you.